I'm going to be handing things over to Michalle Fain, who is the principal in residence at KIPP Chicago. She's also an alumna of KIPP Chicago herself. She came back to teach at KIPP to give back to the network of schools that gave her the opportunities that it did. So we're really excited to have her lead this conversation. And she's going to be joined here on stage by Shavar Jeffries, who is the CEO of the KIPP Foundation. He's been with KIPP from as early as 2001, where he was a founding board chair at KIPP Newark. He's also a KIPP parent himself with 2 children who graduated from their programs. So we're really excited for them to talk about their work at KIPP. And so without further ado, here for a fireside chat, please give it up for our guest. Thank you so much.
Good morning, everyone. Hi. Yeah, thank you for the energy. I cannot believe I'm about to say this. A lot of my students back in Chicago are watching right now, and I told them I wouldn't tell them my real name until they were 18. So, but hi, my name is Michalle, or Mimi Fain. I'm a principal in residence at KIPP 1 Primary, located in Chicago, Illinois. And I'm excited to be here today with all of you and being able to converse with Mr. Shavar Jeffries, who is our KIPP Foundation CEO. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. I'm so happy to be here with you and everyone else.
Yeah. So something Shavar and I have in common is that we have both been champions for KIPP. We have both worn many different hats. For me, this fall will mark my 20th year with the KIPP family as a student and 9 years as a teacher and now an administrator. Shavar, you have had 2 children who have attended and graduated from KIPP. What made you choose KIPP for your children?
What made me choose KIPP for my children was the same reason I chose to be a part of the KIPP movement back in 2001. I had heard that KIPP, and this was in the very early days of KIPP, had an unyielding conviction in the genius of children. And a conviction that was really rooted in the fact that the genius of our children is inherent to who they are and is like before proof. You know, because oftentimes, and I'm from the great city of Newark, New Jersey, which I think is the best city in the world by far. And we were taught by, the people who raised me, everyone in our community, you are great, you are brilliant. And that comes before evidence, that becomes before proof. Because oftentimes, with children and families from low-income communities, which of course are brilliant and beautiful communities, some others are always looking for evidence and proof about how great and amazing they are. They're looking for data. They're looking for some other demonstrable evidence, whereas we just know it's something that's like before proof. They're born that way. It's like Beyonce said, they woke up like that. They woke up amazing. They woke up brilliant. They woke up geniuses. They have nothing to prove. And I was excited about KIPP because that was the conviction I heard, that KIPP has this unyielding conviction in the genius of children that's inherent to them, that they're born with, and that's the job of those of us as adults to cultivate what's already there. And so to me, it's kind of like this seed, like the redwood seed I think about, right? And obviously the redwood tree, the biggest trees known to humanity, and because of the ways in which trees, of course, participate in the process of photosynthesis, they make all of our living possible. But all that power is inherent in a little seed. The seed doesn't need to prove anything. And if the seed is in the right circumstances in terms of the right amounts of oxygen, water, and of course for the redwood seed, it also needs a fire, right, because it's an acacia seed. So unless it's going through something, it won't germinate into all of its power. That's kind of how our children are. All this power is inside them. And if we just create the right environment, they will automatically give birth to what's inside them. And so I was just really excited by what KIPP stood for. And so I was very honored to be a part of KIPP in 2001 when I came the founding board chair in KIPP Newark. And then several years later, when my babies got to kindergarten, my son actually couldn't get in through the lottery. So we had to do something else for him for 1 year. And then my daughter, when she got to kindergarten, she was able to get in, and he came in through the sibling preference.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. My 4 years at KIPP were so life-changing that when I graduated, I said that I wanted to come back and be a KIPP teacher. So it was important for me to go to college, come back, and I have loved the last 9 years being able to pour into students. So hopefully one day they'll come back or do whatever their heart desires. You already shared that in 2001, you were the founding board chair of KIPP Newark. You joined the KIPP Foundation board in 2019. A little over a year ago, you transitioned into your new role, new and current role as CEO of KIPP Foundation, leading the charge of the largest charter management organization with 275 schools. That's a lot of schools.
That's a lot of schools.
What has been the most rewarding or memorable part of your KIPP journey thus far?
I'd say the two most rewarding parts, one are what we already know, which is the brilliance of our children. And so to spend time with our babies and to see the promise inside of them, to hear them talk about their dreams, to hear them talk about their aspirations, to hear them talk about the ways they want to change the world and make the world a better place for all is unbelievably rewarding, unbelievably memorable. And right with that, frankly, Tom, I get to spend with people like you, our educators, who show up early for our children each and every day. They stay late. They pour their souls into our educators. They do everything imaginable to support our children to walk into the fullness of their purpose, the fullness of their potential. They're not paid the way they ought to be. They're not honored in this country the way they ought to be. They are the superstars. They should be on Mount Rushmores all over the place. We should have an Oscars, a Grammys, all of that. The Tonys, what do they call the EGOT or whatever? It should be that times 10 for our educators. And in this role, I get to see them and I get to listen to them. And part of what we're working to do is figure out how we can bring more support, more resources to them, how we can leverage the beautiful scale of this biggest in the nation network to make a very difficult job a little bit less difficult because we can harness the power of the entire network.
In 2020, the pandemic changed the world, especially the world of education. How has KIPP been recovering from the pandemic, and where are we with learning loss?
Yeah, so we're dealing with all the challenges that all of us are dealing with, all of the challenges in terms of historic learning loss, of course, all of the challenges in terms of what's happening in our communities, in our families, in terms of the mental health trauma, the disruptions and dislocations that our children and families experienced throughout the pandemic, the housing insecurity, the uptick in violence in many of our communities, the economic insecurity, the fact that the kids we serve during the pandemic oftentimes did not have the privilege of high-speed internet access at home, oftentimes did not have the privilege of parents who could work from home and could attend to their learning. Our parents generally had to go out of the home to work and to put food on the table. So we're dealing with all of the consequences that are associated with that, and we're working extremely hard not only to recover, because that obviously is not ultimately what we're about, but to frankly support our kids so that they can fulfill all of the potential that they have. So we're doing a lot of work around supports for our educators, enhanced training for our educators, working to line our curriculum in ways that we can provide support throughout the nation so that our schools aren't feeling as if they're on their own and having to deal with all these challenges without the support of this network. But we believe, and I hope everyone in here believes and understands, this work is more important than it's ever been. We have to stay in it. As long as our children show up in schools, we have to show up and be ready for them and be ready to support them and cultivate them and develop them. We have to continue to work to make the profession of public education attractive to younger professionals. It's obviously a profession that, of course, we believe is unbelievably noble, divine even, but we also as a country have to work to make sure our teachers and educators are honored the way that they ought to be so we can bring in the new generation of educators that we need to support our kids.
The pandemic accelerated the need for tech solutions for classrooms. How does tech align with your leadership?
We're always interested in any tool, any platform, any resource that can make the job of our educators easier, that can make the job of the organization easier, even on the operational side. I know there's many tools that people in this room and others are working to develop. We obviously think it's critical to center educators in the development of these tools. It's great that we have brilliant engineers and brilliant coders who are really being thoughtful about how we can reimagine education, but we need to obviously center educators, we need to center practitioners, they need to be at the table, they need to be frankly driving the table in a lot of ways to make sure that these tools are really aligned and adapted to what our children and families and communities are facing. But we're very interested, very excited, very eager for the innovators, for the inventors, for the entrepreneurs in the ed tech space to come up with tools that we can use that can accelerate our work. What we're working to do at the foundation, frankly, is to partner with people like those in this room, other intermediaries like the Charter School Growth Fund, among others, so that we can, frankly, vet what's real and what isn't. Right? So obviously part of the challenge we have is separating the wheat from the chaff. Right? The promise is beautiful. The rhetoric is amazing. To the extent we can actually find tools that actually vindicate the rhetoric, that vindicate the promise, we're very interested in that. We obviously don't want to pilot things, or even recommend things to educators who, of course, can be very skeptical of those who claim they have the tool that's going to turn everything upside down. We want to make sure we have evidence or credible basis to believe that it really is going to give a good shot to pay dividends for our kids and for our educators.
Yeah, I would like to brag a little bit about KIPP Chicago, because, that's where I'm from. So innovation has long been a cornerstone of our success, and now with the generous support of the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, the landscape of teaching and learning is evolving within our classrooms. KIPP Chicago's inaugural year of AI implementation focused on teacher-first integration and change management. We're revolutionizing how teachers teach and students learn. So KIPP Chicago is ahead of the pack trying to craft an inclusive and equitable AI future for education. Some of the tools and platforms we've been using this year include a lot of the people who are in this room, like Chiron Learning, founded by Rajan, which allows students to learn interactively anytime, anywhere with expert teachers of their choice. That's happening at my campus in our multilingual math class. Magic School AI, founded by a former teacher and principal, aims to alleviate the burden of repetitive tasks, allowing teachers to focus on teaching. Paloma is an app that supports parents as first teachers through at-home parent-led tutoring. And then this past winter, an AI professional learning community in collaboration with Play Lab AI, Array Education, and Relay Graduate School of Education. It was co-facilitated by KIPP founder Dave Levin, shout out to Dave, and KIPP Chicago's VP of Equity, Pete Gooden. This community empowered our region to drive AI innovation in K-12 education. Our inaugural cohort comprises of a diverse range of 31 participants, from grade level chairs, HR team, the diverse leaders team, data, KIPP Forward, which is like our KIPP through college, middle and primary school teachers, and school leaders. So together, we're crafting an inclusive, equitable AI future for education. So that's what we're doing in Chicago right now.
Thank you. Yes.
So what is your vision for the role of innovation in ed tech for KIPP?
I think it's very important when we talk about our vision for education, whether it's in the context of tech or otherwise, is to always begin with the premise of the brilliance of the young people. Even just yesterday here, I had a conversation with a colleague who I love dearly, who was talking about some results that he had in an organization that he ran, and he talked about how he was proving it was possible that students of color from low-income communities could go to college and graduate from college at high levels. So I then asked him, I was like, hey, when did you open your program in that community? It's about 2007, 2006 or so. So I was like, so you thought until you showed up in 05, 06, where no black and brown kids could go to college? Who told you that? We've been going to college way before you showed up. I mean, it's nice you showed up, and we'll take help from wherever we can get it. But we need you to come and show up and prove it's possible for us to go to college. And so very well intended, and loved the brother dearly. And I told him this directly because that's my brother, and I'm gonna talk to him about these sort of things. But whatever tools we have has to first be connected with, which again we shouldn't have to name, but we do have to name, particularly when we're talking about the facts that we know. We have in our country many challenges around how we think about the possibilities associated with children who live in poverty or children of color, right? We have a long history of disbelieving in their brilliance. And even when we sometimes want to bring want to participate in bringing change to those communities, even then, sometimes we can also have a lens that that implies that we have to bring something from outside of the baby, outside of the family, outside of the community to them for them to be great. And so it's very critical that we start with the genius is inherent, the brilliance is inherent, and any human being who wants to help cultivate that is a beautiful thing, and we're going to welcome that. But we have to start with that. Like the philosophers have something called a priori, like it's something that is so true, right? So true just from basic rationality and logic that it's pre-proof, it's like pre-evidence. And we have to have that type of belief. And so I think it's so critical to start with that, because if the tool doesn't start with that, then the tool, even to the extent it adds value, just as my brother did in the program he's running, it can ultimately delegitimize itself to the extent it's not rooted in the greatness of our young people. So I think it's so important to start with that philosophical commitment. So moving from that, which is why it's also important to make sure we center educators and educators who also have this belief. Not all educators do, but those who do are at the table helping to shape these tools. We need any innovation that can make this unbelievably difficult job much easier. We've had so many innovations in so many other sectors. I've heard folks talk about, flying an airplane, where, some number of decades ago you had to be, a top-notch pilot in order to have the safety record that today a kind of above average person can have, because the technology has made the job so much easier. And we need to give our educators tools. We need to give our back office folks tools. And so the vision we have is to work with partners to identify what's real, what's credible, what has the opportunity to actually accelerate our work in any of these domains, whether it's what happens in our classroom, whether it's the back office and other supports, HR, data that can support what happens in our classrooms. We need innovation. We know in our country that public education hasn't received the investments in R&D that other sectors and other spaces have. And so to some degree, we're kind of beyond the curve, and we still are overtaxing our educators. And so our vision is to identify and to partner with any provider rooted in that unyielding conviction, which is very critical and is foundational, but who can then develop some sort of innovation, some sort of practice that can enable us to achieve better results for children faster and at a lower expense rate.
That makes me think of Chiron Learning. We use that at my campus, like I said. We use it in our 4th grade multilingual classroom for math. And when we were first introduced to Chiron Learning, they only had teachers that only spoke English. And again, like we at KIPP 1 Primary, we have a large population of multilingual students. A lot of students are new to country this year and last year. And one of our teachers, Patty Crespo, was able to give feedback to Chiron Learning and say that we needed instructors that speak Spanish so that the students were able to use that in the classrooms, and they did that. And now they're using it once a week, every Thursday in class, after their full Eureka Math Squared lesson, which was really awesome.
That is great. That is awesome.
Are there any new KIPP initiatives coming, EdTech partnerships that you would like to share, anything like that?
We're working on them. We're working on them, right? So that's part of the reason I love to come to spaces like this to, and frankly, we're hiring someone who's going to wake up each and every day and work with folks like those in this room to figure out, what tools we ought to introduce to you, right? We don't want to bring anything to you that we haven't vetted and we think it's worth your time. We know your time is precious. You have no time to waste. And so we want to make sure that it's something that's going to be worth your time. But we're interested in a variety of different areas. I mean, there's obviously all type of potential innovations out there from many programs that we're having conversation with folks about that in the math space that can, whether it's the tutoring to support young people, whether it's tools that enable teachers to differentiate in real time, where almost each kid gets a kind of moment-by-moment syllabus based upon where the kid is at any given point in time. There's obviously innovations around helping to support scheduling, which obviously could take a lot of the burden off a lot of our educators. There's back office tools that our team is exploring on the operational side, on the HR side, to make our work much easier. And so we're having conversations across all these different domains, and really excited to see what's going to work and what might make a difference for us.
Well, I just want to take the time, as a KIPP alum, to be on the stage with you. Just thank you so much for. Yes, I'm serious. Yes, I'm
honor is mine
when I get back home.
Oh, stop it. Stop it.
But I just want to say, thank you so much for chatting with me this morning. This was a pleasure to do with you.
The honor is mine. You are doing the most important work of, frankly, any set of human beings. In our schools, leading our schools. We got to do better than that for her. As a soon-to-be principal, leading a school, waking up each and every day, the honor is mine. My job and all of our jobs is, frankly, to figure out ways we can support you. You're doing the work. We appreciate you. We honor you. We love you, and we thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you, guys, everybody.